Welcome to the SPRTER Podcast. Let me introduce you to our audience. Garrison is a Team USA qualifier in powerlifting, began powerlifting in 2018 and has been seen massive amounts of progress and success. He's the founder of the Garrison Redd project, which is a non-profit organization that promotes inclusivity, and he's a TEDx speaker. I also want to mention to Garrison's experience store on the SPRTER app, where he is providing experiences for sporters, supporters, as well as sponsors. So make sure to check out some really cool experiences, motivational speeches, Zoom calls, etc., to connect with him over there. But let's delve into this. Garrison, how did it all start? How did you get into fitness? And tell me about your story. Tell us about your story.
Most definitely. Shout out to my man, Brett. He said, hey, man, open book. Shout out to them. I got into powerlifting. It's funny because I actually didn't do any sports initially when I got injured. And one day I happened to be at the gym and some guy comes up to me. It was like he's a wheelchair sports, like he's into wheelchair sports, and he's actually a football coach for a local wheelchair football team, and he wanted me to come out just to see what it's about, you know, as a somewhat of a social activity, but something to keep me active. So I took him up on an offer, and I meet up with this other gentleman, John Hamill, who's the president of the Wheelchair Sports Federation. It's an incredible organization that helps individuals get involved in adaptive sports. And he connected me with the New Jersey Navigators. And I was wheelchair racing for a little while. I wasn't a big fan of like 1,500 meters and stuff like that. That's too long. But my coach, Jimmy Cuevas, introduced me to powerlifting. It was a competition coming up. He asked me, that was coming up at the time, he asked me how much I weighed. And I didn't really know how much I weighed, because a lot of times when you are, you know, have a mobility issue that requires like a wheelchair, then, you know, it's hard to get weighed at, you know, it's just hard to find scales that accommodate you. So with that said, he got me weighed in, because this is like, it was a regional competition, and yes, it's a big deal. It's not, you know, nothing regular. So I weighed like 120 pounds, and I was able to lift 250 pounds with no training. And Team USA Quick Start Camp, they were able to lift like 270 pounds, weighing a little more.
But with training, right?
Yeah, that's
like
how I got
the
into
training.
it.
So they've had the training in lifting that, whereas
Yeah, they had like a camp where, you know, they had a camp where individuals that are, you know, aspiring to be like Paralympic athletes one day could get involved in, and that they see like they could be, you know, have national team potential as well. So it was like a few different sports. It was some field sports as well. It was some field sports, and it was powerlifting. And there I was able to lift 270 pounds at like the Olympic training facility, which is at Colorado Springs. So, and we stayed on a dorm for about 4 days, and it was a good experience, just knowing like Michael Phelps came there, and all these incredible Olympic, the Paralympic and Olympic Committee keeps everything together. So on one floor it could be, you know, Team USA air shooter, whatever, you know, there's so many different sports. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got into it. It was out of nowhere, and I have an incredible trainer who I've been training with since 2018, John Gaglione from Gaglione Strength.
Okay,
so
great. That's a really good overview. Thanks for sharing that story. Now, since 2018 to now, what do you see your progress, and what do you see as your, call it, biggest success, whatever that is?
I don't know. Like, I don't even think about it. So many incredible things that I've done, but I guess what I feel as my biggest accomplishment is helping other individuals living with disabilities. That would be, you know, that's something that's fulfilling, knowing that I had the opportunity to have an impact in someone's life in some form or fashion. So I guess that would be it. But that's the overall. I have so many other wins, but I don't like to brag about my wins. I like to just keep on
And we
going
s-
and
we see that with a lot of
keep
athletes
striving.
that are too humble for their wins. But I think one aspect, and I don't think it's bragging at all, where what we see is athletes being real role models. And you share on your social media, obviously, honestly, you're sharing some really cool insights into, well, what's it like to, I saw a video, what's it like to get into an SUV with being in a wheelchair. I mean, I think that's really education is really helpful, but it's also that role model aspect, and as in, hey, I can show you how to do these certain things. So I think that's really amazing to that you're giving back and that you're educating in that sense. Are there any role models that you follow along that people you're like, yo, you inspire me?
Well, I mean, I get inspiration from all different types of different things. And the reason why I say that is because it could be that sanitation
Hmm.
guy going to work every day, working 12 hours. Just to have that dedication, that's something that could translate to me. So I guess my parents is like my motivation. But yes, inspiration for myself is I look at the little things, it's not the people that's on top that really inspire me. It's like the work ethic of individuals, from different aspects. That's where I get
Okay.
my
And
inspiration.
what drives your inspiration to quote unquote inspire others to share your journey and to to show them certain things, like here's what I do as someone who has
Well,
who can't really use their legs. Where does that come from, and what do you see as, yeah, how do you see that role?
well, see, I look at it like this. If we live in an ableist society, and I'm here in New York, at least in New York. That's one of the things I notice. And I travel often, so overall, society is,
Hmm.
practicing ableism, where they make things inaccessible, which causes individuals with disabilities to be at, I wouldn't say a disadvantage, but will have to find other means to adapt to whatever their environment is giving them. So, and what that means, for instance, if we lived in a world where there was no steps to get in an apartment
Hmm.
building or get in a house, then any person with a disability, could find housing easily or find work. For instance, if there's a lot of entities where in order to get into their location, there's steps. So that creates a boundary for individuals like myself. And living in New York is built around the subway system. And with it being built around the subway system, if only 20% of the
Hmm.
subway stops are accessible, and half of the times those subways are out of service, those stops are out of service, the elevators, what we supposed to do? This is imposing harder hardships on us that society is creating. It's not us creating these issues. A lot of people fail to realize, often individuals with disabilities most of the
Hmm.
time are independent. So, in that they're fully independent, if society was universally designed for everybody to fit in, then it wouldn't be quote unquote disabled and abled. Everybody would just be one. It wouldn't have different categories. So I just try to showcase that you can fulfill whatever's out there for you. And, I do things like this right here where there's people listening now probably thinking, oh, maybe he's right. Maybe if this place was designed for everyone, it'll be no boundaries and stuff like that. So I just try to bring awareness to create visibility, and representation always matters. So with that being said, it works both ways. So if there's someone out there that might feel they can't do certain things, at least if they see me do it, I don't know, and if they if they have a similar injury or whatever the case may be, then they may feel motivated to do something, or it might motivate them to do something else that they're passionate about, or whatever the case may
I
be.
really
So
appreciate that, and I totally
that's like,
agree in terms of representation matters, and I think that's certainly something that we see with athletes inspiring, whether it's the youth or other athletes that have, whether it's the type of condition that they're in or whoever they're representing. So I can absolutely see that. Now you make a really good point in regards to so many businesses being, well, they have, even if it's just a little step, it's, well, you can't get in there with a wheelchair, and I can that probably also plays a role into, well, there's an apartment on the third floor and that's cheaper than the one on the ground floor, or you have to probably pay more for living in a place with an elevator and so on. So I would assume that there are additional costs. Is that something that you feel?
oh yeah, you encounter additional
Mm,
costs all the way around. And that's another big deal. Like for transportation, most it's hard for most people to get around on a regular
yeah.
day using public transportation. So imagine a person that is disabled. They can take the subway, but you never know how that's going to work if you get to a stop with the elevator being in service or out of service. So then you got a chance that then like me, I drive. I'm fortunate enough to drive. And with that said, that helps me tremendously with my independence, but not, I mean, vehicles are expensive. So you don't expect everyone to, be able to attain a vehicle, especially being that the employment rate within the disabled
Mm,
community is so much higher. So, you know, with that said, now they got to pay for Ubers and cabs, and then some of these um cabs and like Ubers, and I don't even know how what commission they're under or how it work, but they're not really trained. Like the drivers aren't trained to accommodate everyone, to handle a wheelchair. Like mine's break down very easily, but not everybody's does. So with that, and not everybody is independent enough to break down their chair themselves.
yeah.
They may need some assistance. So it's a whole other world of course that comes with living with a disability. However, we adapt to it, and that's how you go. Because if you think about it, the unemployment rate is
Mm,
higher in the disabled community, and especially with individuals with physical disabilities as well, and we got to include that as well. But there's very few businesses or jobs out there that will require you to really stand and have to have mobility of your lower extremity. So I mean, especially in this day and age, everything's done from behind a desk and with a keyboard, or even if it's something like retail. Like
yeah.
as long as you have mobility, you can assist a customer, and you just don't see it. So it's like weird. It's kind of like a weird thing. Like society is like
Yeah, I can
backwards a
see that, and
little bit.
even some of the audience has been chiming in saying, and when a subway breaks down and there's no notice, like, well, now you're stranded on some platform, or when there's not enough Ubers that cater to, as you said, they're not educated and so on. Yeah, it's really difficult to. That must be very difficult in terms of, well, how can we change that, and how can we use sport as a way, as you are doing, right? You're using the sport as like, I mean, you're like, how to do a
Yeah,
pull out with a wheelchair. I'm like, that's inspiring. So I'm like, hell, I
yeah,
like there's some real strength here, and a lot of dedication, and I think that's very very important to inspire others that have the same condition. Now, if you can talk us a little bit through the Garrison Redd project and
I decided, so back around 2017 is where I got the idea and I started, working towards it. We became a nonprofit in 2018, 501c3. But the goal of the nonprofit was, and of the nonprofit still today, is to help individuals, be that mediator between an individual suffering a catastrophic injury or traumatic experience and wanted to get back into society, wanted to feel included once again. So, we started hosting tons of different events, some with fitness, some just social gatherings and things of that nature, like dance night, arts and crafts nights, things of that nature, due to the fact that, those are the times where people get a chance to learn and ask questions to each other. And I try to promote inclusivity as well. So I will invite, individuals that were CEOs or owned businesses or whatever the case may be, but we have similar interests, but they'll be there and they got to get an opportunity to ask questions to an individual living with a disability, just to, socialize. And from there, that can perception of how you view someone when you look at them. A lot of times people are stereotyped by what they look like. So if you see somebody with a physical disability and y'all both going, and I'm gonna give you an example. You see somebody with a physical disability and y'all both going through a door and this person uses a wheelchair. Most of the time you're gonna want to assist them naturally if you're, a good person with opening the door. But you might not know this person might be 4 times stronger than you and can hold the door for, so that's one of the things that, we try to change.
Yeah, I can see that. As you said, the natural is like, oh, let me help you. But I'm like, no, buddy, I don't need your help. Right? I was like, I could lift you up.
Yeah.
And in your instance, it's certainly true.
There is. So, that changes the percent. I always said I wanted to be more like Muhammad Ali than Michael Jordan. Like, or, I wanted to have a social impact, like leave something that's going to last forever as far as just changing the world. And, Michael Jordan, is an incredible, athlete, but I don't feel he has that social impact like how Muhammad Ali had, for instance, the civil rights movement. So, something like that is always fulfilling.
And that's pretty incredible. Alongside with that, we have a segment that we call Break the Rules, where we asked you to change the rules in relation to powerlifting, Paralympic powerlifting. If you could make one rule change that would make it better, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think. I have a few on the list.
More.
But I'll take the main one. Is it should change the lift, the total lift category should be included somehow in the ranking system for qualification for the Paralympics and to compete in the Paralympics and powerlifting. So currently the rule has it where it's the top 8 that has the best overall lift in a 4-year period, and that's the quad. So, Olympics go by quads. And however, the total lift, it encompasses all 3 of your lifts. So say, for instance, you lifted, like 200 kilos, 200 kilos, 200 kilos successfully 3 times, or whatever the case, that's 600 kilos versus someone that lifted 182 kilos one time, or maybe let's say 300 kilos one time. 600 kilos is more than 300 kilos because you completed all successfully. So
okay, that's an interesting one because I can see that as in you 200, 200, 200, 600. Okay, but then someone is doing 190, 190, 205. so in total they would have less kilograms lifted, but that 205 just gives them that extra.
Yeah, 205 would be higher, considered better
Yeah,
than a 200.
that's a really
Yeah,
interesting rule
you got
change. I
it.
think we should push that up.
Yeah, it'll make it. It'll be more. How would I put it? More technique based.
Maybe.
It'll add a technical aspect. It will increase the technical aspect
Interesting.
of
Maybe also add
the
some
sport.
strategy to it, as in people can, like
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. Should I?
Yeah,
Game
that's
planning
interesting.
involved.
It's a really good rule change here that you're proposing. Now, when we think about popularity of Paralympic sport, and how has it changed from when you started in 2018, really getting involved with the lifting, and to now? What's the last 4 years been? Has COVID made an impact on it? Are we back to before COVID, or where is the current state?
Nah, in my opinion, para powerlifting is definitely a growing sport. A lot. I've noticed, there's a lot more competitors in each category when I first started, versus when I first started. It actually managed to sustain itself during COVID. There was still competitions, even though we was in bubble settings. But it sustains itself during COVID, in my opinion. And yeah, it's still growing. I get, as athletes. So as I like to put it, as the disability movement grows, Paralympic sports is going to grow as well, right along with it. Because a lot of times when it comes to the representation, in this, especially in America, they gravitate towards, getting a Paralympic athlete or, a disabled athlete, because some people glorify it, of course, as inspiration. So that's that's where the representation is starting to, is increasing at. That's what I would like to say. The representation is increasing at. And yeah, so it makes the sport increase as well. So it
That's
works
very
for
good to
me.
hear. Now, you talked about inspiration. I know there's these two sides of it. As in, some people like really, yes, this is we're here for the inspiration, but then also, hey, I'm an athlete. This is not about inspiration about others. This is phenomenal performance. Which of those
Yeah,
sides are you on? And is there such thing as being on one of those sides? Because I know that conversation is happening.
I'm on. So, of course, I'm on the performance side, that people need to give more
Hmm.
recognition to the performance, especially my sport, powerlifting. On a Paralympic level, athletes typically outlift their able-bodied counterparts. So, like, I bench press, like, right now, probably like 305 if I get under the bench today, and I'll probably only weigh 132 pounds. So, the average person that weighs 132 pounds is not too many in this world. But there's athletes that I know that's 132 pounds with disabilities that's bench pressing 400 pounds.
Okay.
So that goes to show, like, this is performance. But I could see how somebody would, draw inspiration from it, because at the end of the day, that's something you gain inspiration for. Somebody that has a obstacle or challenge, and I don't even call it a challenge, but that's how people will view it, as some type of challenge, that's impacting them, but they able to still persevere and be, super strong or super fast or whatever the case may be. So I could see where they could draw inspiration from it, but at first,
Yes.
it's phenomenal performance, and you wouldn't get inspiration from anything that's not phenomenal performance. Michael Jordan flu game, people draw inspiration from that is because he
Yep.
played with the
No,
flu.
I
So, or when he plays with an injury, you consider that inspiration or motivation. If he could do it, then I could do it. So I see where you draw it from. So that's why I said, like, I'm in the middle, because the performance is what people draw inspiration to at the end of the day. It's the performance.
No, that makes a lot of sense. You are a certified coach just recently. You got, did I see that correctly? Yeah, I think I saw a post, fairly recent post that's been where you shared about your qualifications.
Probably
too many. So you're training others as well? Is that correct?
Yeah, as well. So I just received a space where I'm able to accommodate individuals who would like to get trained. And this is I'm inviting all individuals out there. It doesn't matter what ability you have, as long as you're able to make it to the gym. We could get it in, get some arms like this.
I probably need I probably need a few training sessions in there before I get to that level. So that's fantastic that you're working with people and helping them achieve their goals as well.
Yeah, and I do things virtually as well. So,
and that's an interesting one that we see now more and more, as in that virtual connection, whether it's via Zoom or different platforms. As in, hey, I can coach you, I can help you with a nutritional plan, I can give you some specific guidance. So.
Yep.
I know that you have that as part of your SPRTER platform. You have that on the app set up, and in terms of your experience store. So anyone interested in learning more and connecting with you there, head over to the experience store on SPRTER app to check out some of the awesome insights that you provide there. So that's something to look out for. Now, I want to be cognizant of your time, but I really appreciate your insights. Is there one thing that we haven't touched on that you really feel like you want to share with our audience, or one thing that you think this is one of the most important aspects as for me as a sporter, as an athlete, as someone in the community?
Oh, so one of the things I want to tell everyone out there is to always try. Just always give your best, to always try and go hard each and every day. And feel free to ask questions. That's what things like the SPRTER app is for. You could get insight from individuals that are out there doing whatever you are into. So you can really connect with, individuals like myself. But yeah, you can ask questions, whatever questions, especially even fitness related, I'm all for it. Like, that's what I do each and every day. So fitness is my thing. And it's not even it used to be a hobby, but now it became like the passion of my life, helping people.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And yes, push yourself and don't take no for an answer. That's a really good recommendation here. Anyone, make sure to follow Garrison Redd on all of the socials. We'll link you out, and we'll have that episode on Instagram Live. We'll have it on YouTube uploaded as well for anyone afterwards. And thank you so much for joining us on the SPRTER Podcast. And we're excited to follow along. Have an awesome day. Take it easy. Bye.
Stay tuned.